Hi everyone, and welcome to the weekly predictions for the week of September 16, 2019. These are based on my review of astrological transits and review of the previous past events that had occurred under similar transits. For general background influence, we still have Pluto conjunct Saturn occurring in Capricorn. This is a slowly developing transit. It will be actually getting more and more precise as we get into 2020, and those usually coincide with strong events such as strong earthquakes, major geopolitical changes in leadership, restructuring in government and large corporations, and really major shifts of that nature. It also usually affects industries that have to do with like rocks, minerals, steel, excavation, mining, and large-scale construction that again would need to use either really large equipment, like the excavators, cranes, etc., and or things that are being erected really for a long time, such as a really long bridge, wall, something, a tunnel that needs to go through the mountain. The negative manifestations could be that if those structures are truly old, then they're going to be more susceptible to collapsing, being destroyed, or at the very best they will be dismantled and replaced. So I guess it's for better or worse. I haven't seen much happening last week. I think there was an old, I think it was a singer of the group Cars that passed away at 75, but and of course we have ongoing tensions like China and Hong Kong. We have tensions and the tariff wars between US and China, and obviously Middle East, I guess, has been a hot topic for a long time, but we have new sort of ongoing tensions with between US and Iran. So, and of course we have the negotiations about Brexit, and so those obviously would fall under this kind of, I guess, this influence, and those would be manifestations, things that happen for a long time, but then the consequences of these events, they again really affect many people. And in September, especially at the end of the September, we will also have Saturn conjuncting one of the moon nodes, and that will be about, I think it's September 27, 28 in particular, and plus minus a few days. This usually coincides with, again, specific events, like I said, major earthquakes, or a famous leader is removed or makes an important announcement. And moon nodes conjunct like slow-moving planets usually indicate an event that affects many people, such as, like I said, the entire nation, or entire airport is shut down, or say several islands are hit by an earthquake. And so again, we're talking about maybe hundreds, thousands of people are affected. And or again, we had, for example, when the Notre Dame Cathedral was burning, obviously it's a landmark that everybody knows about, and it may not have necessarily affected physically many people, but many people are familiar with the event, and it affected them on some level. They were aware of it. So something that's very public, very kind of in the public eye, very much in the media. So whatever that event that might be, again, the highest probability is the end of September, could possibly occur this week as well. And it would be something that would be quite covered by the media. Could be a natural disaster, accident, or, like I said, leader passing away or being replaced, or some major geopolitical change. And again, that's something that many people will be involved, and many people will know about it, perhaps through media. Another ongoing influence that actually is also coming to be, sort of maximizing its influence about this week through sometime the end of September, is the ongoing square between Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune is in Pisces and Jupiter is in Sagittarius. And this influence was pretty much on and off, with peaks in April and June of 2019. And this week it is pretty much going to peak with, I think it's through the 21st perhaps. And this influence, among other things, usually coincide with excessively wet weather, accidents that involve, again, too much rain, flooding, and or excessive kind of accumulation of certain commodities specifically related to these planets. So we were talking something like oil or gas or any sort of pharmaceuticals, beverages, things that occur at the places of worship or are related to like I said, drugs, poisons, religion, water, navy, etc. So they may coincide with, shipments being affected. Shipments can go through, ships cannot leave, ships cannot come. There are some regulations, some laws, international laws in particular, that prevent them from coming. There are some international tribulations or legal problems that prevent, for example, oil or gas to go through. So some problems with, pipes or something like that, especially anything that has to do with like water or pipes that are in the water, underwater, or contamination with chemicals. And in particular, last week, as I predicted, around September, specifically I pointed out, and again, I pointed this out in my annual predictions, but also yet again last week, that around September 12th through 14th, we would have an intensification of some sort of fighting around oil or accidents involving either shipments of oil and or related, commodities, like I said, all these other, I guess, Neptunian type items. And that was because we had Mars basically joining the this aspect between Neptune and Jupiter, and at that point Mars had actually opposed Neptune and made a square to Jupiter, so basically like it became a T-square, which is a very tense aspect. And Mars, as you can imagine, has to do with things like fighting, attacks, fires, etc. And we had there was an attack specifically on, I guess, I think it's a refinery or some sort of production facility in Saudi Arabia. And as of Monday, September 16th, we had, I saw that the crude oil jumped quite a bit. I think it was like 13-15%, something like that. So definitely things have evolved as predicted as far as oil prices going up. And as I said, that this influence is peaking in September, but it will actually continue kind of slowly degrading over time. And about through, I guess, September 21st is where we may have this effect of, oil prices continue going up. And that's when that aspect between Jupiter and Neptune will be precise around then. And then the planets will slowly separate. Mars has already left that position where it was triggering an attack, so I don't perceive there are any additional attacks or sort of catastrophes happening, such as, fire on a boat like we had that in the last few weeks. So those will slowly continue. The probability of such events will slowly continue to decline, as well as the sort of concerns about oil and sort of excessive excessive boost to oil prices or problems with shipments. Again, those will slowly continue to decline, starting as early as September 22nd. But again, it's a very gradual change over subsequent weeks. Certainly into October, it may no longer be as much of a concern, and the oil prices therefore will, on a I guess short term at least, will reduce or will go down from the peak that we had experienced today. I'm recording this on September 16th, by the way. So let's see. So as far as the other topics, again, that we may hear about, it would be, again, Neptunian topics. So again, continuing problems potentially with water, such as typhoons, hurricanes, problems with dams, problems with excessive, like I said, accumulation of some either oil or even drugs, pharmaceuticals, or chemicals that cannot be shipped. Problems with distribution of, say, some sort of chemical, like the supplies cannot get through, and or there's some, some embargo where, again, one side just kind of is not allowing things to happen. But again, this will decline starting, I would say, in October onward slowly. Over some weeks, we're talking about, I would say, weeks of for that influence to slowly dissipate. And then there's also, like I said, influence that may trigger mudslides, earthquakes, problems with old buildings, old established leaders. This week, the peak dates are September 19th through 23rd, and next week especially, I would pay attention around the 27th or 28th. And let's see, in general, this week we may see increased focus on steel, metals, rocks, minerals, coal, mining, large-scale construction, excavation. Maybe there's a discovery, and it's some sort of archaeological discovery that's made during mining, or maybe there's a really large rock or something, some sort of precious stone is discovered. So something along those lines, or a large company that has to do with, say aluminum or steel or something like that, makes an announcement about complete change in the leadership, or some sort of restructuring, or they're closing the mine or they're opening the mine. Speaking of that, Saturn is going to turn from retrograde to direct on September, 17th to 18th, which would, in my opinion, coincide with some sort of a reversal in the situation again that is in the Saturnian realm and Capricornian realm. I guess those are pretty much the same. Meaning it could be something along the lines of, a new leader is announced for a governmental position, but it's not necessarily a new leader, but rather somebody who maybe had left previously is being reintroduced. Or maybe there's a project that previously has been on hold for additional evaluation. Maybe there's a site that was being evaluated for, say, a new large-scale construction or mining site or something like that. And now that hold is taken off. Or vice versa, there's a project that perhaps was given a green light previously, but now it's going to be kind of scrapped. And or if, like I said, there are some geopolitical changes where maybe a status of particular, say, region is reversed, and basically, or at least there's an attempt to do so. And again, it could coincide also with increased sort of problems for areas that have a strong Saturnian, influence. So anything that's restrictive, I don't know, place where elderly people live, for example, or buildings that are made out of rocks or made through moving rocks or mining. Let's see, and additionally, as I said, the strongest dates for kind of a market moves this week on 19th and then 22nd through the 23rd. Overall, I think actually the market will be going up this week, despite these potential problems, because I'm not sure that those events that I just described will necessarily affect the market negatively. Although today I thought that the market would be going up on Monday and actually went down. But overall, especially towards the end of the week, I think the market will be going up. Let's see, and then continuing kind of predictions for US and China. They both have some stressful aspects to their charts. For China, there's an increased probability of earthquakes, disasters, and or issues regarding oil, navy, pollution, long-distance transportation. And then specifically for US and China, there's an increased focus on things like negotiating, obviously, with partners. And for US, also kind of making changes either in its leadership or in the status of the world arena, especially in finance, or in general issues revolving around banks, finance, rates, etc., currencies, as well as earnings, and some changes, not changes, but rather focus on things like laws, legal statuses, tariffs, negotiations that specifically involve international partners, and related to leadership for US. And those actually early in October, kind of looking ahead, will be a tense time in general for the world, with again more mudslides, earthquakes, disasters on the horizon. But for US, October 2nd looks like a date where there might be an important announcement about some leadership change or new leaders that may become important, long term for the country. And for China, again, focus on also banks and finance, as well as power struggles with partners, earthquakes, accidents and disasters, probabilities increased, and that will be for both countries through about November 5th. And let's see, And for China, again, the focus may, specifically for disasters, earthquakes, may particularly be something that involve either a source of oil or body of water, or there may be announcement, the positive manifestation that they may announce that they're not changing, but they're fixing some sort of like old building or old infrastructure, like dam or road. So that would be the best. Alternatively, there can be a major earthquake that can damage, dams, roads, etc. So as I just mentioned, for pretty much every day of the week, I've given some probability of the market going up or down. For the entire week, pretty much every day I have it going up. For Monday, I thought that the market would be going actually down in the morning, but would recover later in the day. It has not. It ended up down. And let's see, for the rest of the week, I give a slight sort of probability of 60-65% of it going up, especially Thursday and Friday. Also for 16th through the 22nd approximately, so I guess the entire week of September, as well as continuing through the end, but maybe to a lesser degree, the end of September, but to a lesser degree, there may be continuing increased news about, like I said, wet weather, hurricanes, and potentially some chemical attacks or problems involving, again, either water or poisons or drugs, maybe some sort of drug shipment is stopped, etc. And unfortunately, towards the end of the week, there may be, the end of the month rather, 27th, 28th has a really strong probability of some sort of large disasters. It may be a maritime disaster or accidents or attacks involving oil and gas, but could also be just international tensions, or, like I said, at the very best, maybe a large infrastructure project is started, or new leadership is announced for either some country or a large corporation. For US, those same dates, especially the 20th and 21st of September, will be important, and in particularly the country may see a lot of focus on the gas, oil, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, drugs, beverages, religion, wet weather, etc. So maybe a probability of, again, additional hurricanes or some problems due to wet weather. And already, obviously, there was focus on oil to make sure that there is enough supply. And I guess the pricing of oil had increased. So that will continue specifically for the US. And on September 17th, 18th, there may be an important announcement about a new leader or a famous person. So somebody may be appointed to a new position, or a famous person, such as a politician or actor or something like that, may either be recognized for some achievement, or they may fall sick, and or there may be some problems, I would say, with accounting perhaps, or bookkeeping there. And the person is more likely to be a male or somebody who exhibits sort of masculine features. Also for September 16th through 19th for US, there may be increased focus on international partnerships and negotiations, where the first communication may increase just in general. And but the change in the deals perhaps may be kind of greater than expected. So either a greater or smaller proportion of items than expected may be affected, say, by some new tariff or by some new law. And the deal may be reached around September 17th. And then following that, on the 18th and 19th, there may be some excessive optimism about the deal being reached, which is why I'm thinking the market would be going up, or one of the reasons for that. And at the same time, or alternatively, this deal may involve overpaying for something, basically, or money perhaps will be seen as wasted or allocated incorrectly. So it may be something along the lines where there's a short-term gain, or short-term maybe compromise to gain something short-term, and especially it may be related to either banks, finance, and currency. But then the deal may be seen as undermining countries' long-term goals, including goals of like international expansion, or sort of having good international relations. And yeah, I have heard that there will be obviously negotiations, or have heard, I'm not really following news that closely except for checking the predictions, but apparently there will be decision about the rates cut, or at least there will be considered. And with Mars making an aspect to US Neptune that rules the fourth house of in its chart, which fourth house has to do with banks, among other things, I would say that there is probably a likelihood that there will be a rate cut or there will be an action taken, and the action with Mars being the planet that triggers it may be something that elicits upset or anger, or anger over some confusion, but also anger over maybe some move being either too bold, too harsh, inconsiderate. So that's specifically 17th, 18th for US. Let's see. And then globally, 17th through 19th of September may see generally increased news about military plans, weapons, military force, weapons sales, buildup of weapons, accumulation, distribution of weapons, some sort of military preparedness, using military or weapons to fight disease, maybe, sending military personnel to help people who have experienced some disaster, or using military and weapons to support a power shift at governmental level somewhere. And there may also be increased news about nuclear weapons and nuclear power, and that will basically be the manifestation, in my opinion, of the positive, rather harmonious aspect of trine between Mars and Pluto. And so events of that nature, like I said, including nuclear plants or nuclear power, will proceed smoothly. So if there's a project that started, it will continue to go through, or some shipments maybe of weapons or sales of weapons may be done such that there are no obstacles or no delays. New initiatives regarding these matters may be passed easily and quickly. The weapons, like I said, may be transported easily. Troops may be relocated again easily without delays or concerns. Military force can be strengthened, especially again using some sort of really large-scale weapons that lead potentially to large-scale destruction, such as nuclear weapons. Power continues to be generated, so there's no shortage of power, no weapons, shortage of weapons, power, or military personnel. Things just go through, just keep them going. Some new weapon may be released, so things of that nature, kind of beneficial time for these subjects. As well as for, say, positive thing would be maybe if somebody who is into fighting or bodybuilding or, say, martial arts, it would be actually great time for maybe exercising and achieving, better results than before. So there can always be positive manifestation, of course. So also for 17th, 18th, as I mentioned before, because Saturn is actually going to turn direct, there may be some sort of a shift or turnaround related particularly to matters of like steel, coal, metals, minerals, mines, governmental initiatives or governmental leaders or restructuring announced among some large corporations. An old leader might come back, someone's popularity, like a leader that's old established, literally old, somebody really old, or somebody who's been in power forever, their popularity drastically changes, totally new leader may emerge, or previously closed business such as closed mine or building or bridge or tunnel may reopen, or vice versa is closed for again a long time for, say, repairs. The project, like I said, that was put on hold maybe not being given green light, or vice versa, stopped, and again for a long time. So whatever those events may be, it was something that's been going on for a really long time, but now the change will also be such that will be affecting things again for a long time to come. It's not going to be a transient change. Again, up on Wednesday, then 18th, 20th for September are quite important days for China, where there may be some agreement reached with international partners, and we may hear about that in the news a lot. And the deal may be reached through diplomatic means, just communication, signing something, happy sort of discussions. Then on the 20th, there may be more positive news for the country of China, such as that the deal or negotiations help to improve their earnings. So the deal may be reached, and the deal may be seen by China as positive for its earnings, profits, and it's been probably reached through just means of happy, warm conversations. So let's see. Then for US, the entire week, but as I said, especially 20th or 21st, may see increased focus on oil, gas, Navy, pharmaceuticals, drugs, beverages, etc., as well as wet weather, and also banks, real estate, food safety, farming, and homeland security. So perhaps if there's a problem with maybe a gas leak or explosion or some poisoning of the water, it may affect, say, farming, and or I guess we just talked about, or I talked about the rates, and or something that may specifically affect banks, or ability of banks to be able to save funds, or savings accounts, and assets that the banks have, such as when they invest in the real estate. So those are the topics that may be affected, and around that area we may hear about accidents, arguments, fires, attacks, protests, anger. Yes, it can include like fire in a boat, leak or explosion, arguing about oil, accident on an oil rig, and or some oil related business. And there could be upset over some sort of unexpected, bold or risky move that affects banks or savings or real estate. And the issue that may affect bank and their assets would also potentially affect either, like I said, real estate or their savings accounts, and either the same issue or related to that, or even an independent issue, may also affect farmers, farming, food production, and sort of safety of land. So those could be two parallel things. Like I said, some bad weather, oil leak of some chemicals, and it's affecting farmers and their land, or it could be, again, maybe farmers need, again, I'm just not a pro at this, funding for something, and they're not able to get secure funding from, say, bank or something like that, and it affects their ability to produce food basically and grow crops, etc. And whatever the events that might be happening, and again all week, but especially towards the end of the week, 20th, 21st, may be seen by public as either too drastic or involving too much pressure or too much force, and or some sort of lies and confusion, which will be again triggering anger, and or the moves may be seen as too risky, too drastic, or just poorly executed and kind of leading to more problems. So let's see, and then just a quick glance ahead for early October. It's worth mentioning that October 5th and 6th may also see potentially stronger than usual market moves, potentially down, and there may be also either strong earthquakes, accidents, disasters, and or the events may involve like mining, soil, old structures, government leaders, some collapses of like the structures, be it buildings or governmental structures, some reshuffling of the governments, and or there may be some sudden surprises affecting financial sector or international agreements. So maybe there's a deal that's reached under pressure or manipulation, or the deal itself involves change in the government leadership. So financial deal and government leadership, and some sort of surprise event and reshuffling where the new leader emerges, or like I said, is removed. And also another potential area that may be affected and could be affected by, say, an accident or big change, such as, again, reshuffling of the leadership, restructuring of the organization. Could be airplanes, airlines, IT companies, telecoms, social media, and any sort of companies that have to do with like processing data really fast or adapt to new technology, all the high-tech devices, etc. And there may again be some surprises, sudden changes or problems due to high winds. So potential large disaster, high winds, and affecting, say, airplanes. And there may be associated strong market moves. I guess Boeing comes to mind, but I didn't look at its chart specifically. So let's see. So I post usually these predictions the day before on Sundays on my blog at lasunka.com, and this I usually record on Mondays just because I'm running out of time here. I'll try to get back a little bit in time, because I can see these events months, years in advance. Is just there's only so much time I can devote to typing and producing the videos. So I hope you enjoyed this, and go back and check me out either on my blog or this YouTube channel, and I wish everybody to have a great week. Okay, catch you later.